Many thanks for joining me on Global News and Zuma Nigeria. On the headlines, Biden approves military aid to Taiwan. North Korea conducted strategic nuclear strike deal. Malaysia rejects new China map. Giuliani liable for defaming election workers, and Ukraine says 6 personnel killed in helicopter crash. Stay with me for this and more stories. The United States has approved military aid to Taiwan under a program typically used to assist sovereign states in a step expected to anger China, which claims the self-ruled democratic island as its own territory. On Tuesday, the Department of State informed Congress of the $80 million package, which is modest in comparison with the recent military sales to Taiwan, but marks the first time Washington has provided support to Taipei under the Foreign Military Financing FMF program, which generally involves grants or loans to sovereign countries. The announcement is expected to intensify tensions with Beijing, which has not ruled out the use of force to take control of Taiwan. The US and China have had official diplomatic ties for 50 years, but Washington remains Taiwan's biggest supporter. Legislation also requires that it supply the island with the weapons needed for its defense, but this have usually been done on a trade basis rather than as direct support. The State Department insisted that the first ever aid under the FMF did not imply any recognition of Taiwan's sovereignty. A State Department spokesperson said, consistent with the Taiwan Relations Act and our long-standing One China policy, which has not changed, the United States makes available to Taiwan defense articles and services necessary to enable it to maintain a sufficient self-defense capability. The United States has an abiding interest in peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, which is critical to regional and global security and prosperity. Taiwan's Defense Ministry expressed appreciation, saying the aid will help in regional peace and stability, it said in a short statement. Beijing has ramped up its military activities in and around Taiwan in recent years and sought to isolate the island diplomatically since Wen, considered a separatist by China, was first elected president in 2016. The island is getting ready for its next presidential election in January, and Tsai's deputy, William Lai, is presently leading the pack. Tsai and Lai both say the people of Taiwan should be the ones to determine their future. According to officials, the only other time the U.S. has provided a non-nation state with military assistance under FMF was to the African Union, an organization of sovereign states based in Ethiopia. North Korea has fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles in an exercise simulating a nuclear strike on targets in South Korea in response to ongoing joint military drills by the United States and the South Korea report said. Pyongyang correctly carried out its nuclear strike mission, the General Staff of the North Korean People's Army KPA said in a statement on Thursday. The KPA staged a tactical nuclear strike drill simulating scorched earth strikes at major command centers and operational airfields of the ROK military gangsters on Wednesday night, it said, using the acronym for South Korea's official name, the Republic of Korea. In a statement, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff JCS said the North Korean missiles were launched from a site around Pyongyang and traveled about 360 kilometers, 225 miles before landing off the peninsula's east coast. The JCS tagged the launches, which took place under cover of darkness, a grave provocation that threatened international peace and breached United Nations Security Council resolutions that ban any ballistic launches by North Korea. It said South Korean and U.S. intelligence authorities were analyzing the details of the launch. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said, according to reports, that these conducts pose threats to peace and stability of not only our country but of the region and international community and cannot be tolerated. Leif Erik Isley, a professor at Ewha University in Seoul, said while the launches themselves were not infrequent, since North Korea often fired missiles in response to U.S.-South Korea military drills, it was interesting that they had taken place at night. The launch came hours after the U.S. deployed strategic B-1B bombers as part of large-scale All-Chief Freedom Shield exercises that takes place each year and wrap up on Friday. Pyongyang claims the drills, which started on August 21st, are a rehearsal of invasion. Pyongyang has conducted a record of number of weapons tests this year as leader Kim Jong-un steps ahead with his plan to develop fresh weaponry and modernize the country's military. Last week, the country tried and failed for a second time to put a military spy satellite into orbit. Now, disputes on South China Sea. Malaysia has rejected the newest edition of the standard map of China that lay claims to almost the whole South China Sea, including areas laying off the coast of Malaysian Borneo. Tensions have been increasing in strategically significant waters as China has become progressively assertive in its claim, despite a 2016 International Court ruling that its so-called 9-dash line was without merit and superseded by the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. It has built military outposts on rocky outcrops and deployed its Coast Guard and maritime militia in recent years, which has sometimes led to confrontations with other claimants, including Malaysia and the Philippines. Vietnam, Brunei, and Taiwan also have claims to the sea. Malaysia noted the new map, which clearly shows the 9-dash line, showed China's unilateral maritime claims and that they overlapped with Malaysia's claims of its states of Sabah and Sarawak. On Thursday night, the Foreign Ministry said in a statement the map has no binding effects on Malaysia. Malaysia does not recognize China's claims in the South China Sea as outlined in the 2023 edition of the Standard Map of China, which extends into Malaysian maritime area. The tongue-shaped 9-dash line is based on Chinese historical records dating to the Xia dynasty, closely 4,000 years ago. India has already lodged strong protests over China's new map, which it said showed the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh and the Aksai Chin Plateau as official Chinese territory. The two have been in dispute over their mutual border for decades, with clashes reported as recently as 2020. India's Foreign Ministry spokesman Arimdan Bakshi said in a statement that we reject these claims as they have no basis. Such steps by the Chinese side only complicate the resolution of the boundary question. In its statement, Malaysia said the issue of South China Sea sovereignty was complex and sensitive and needed to be resolved through dialogue and consultation in accordance with international law, including UNCLOS. It said it was committed to more negotiations for an effective and substantive code of conduct in the South China Sea, leading to its expeditious conclusion. Now, a federal judge in the United States has held ex-mayor Rudy Giuliani lawsuit brought by two Georgia election workers who say they were falsely accused of fraud during the 2020 presidential election. Beryl Howell, U.S. District Judge, ruled that the former New York City mayor gave only lip service to obey his legal obligations while trying to portray himself as the victim in the case. Howell said Giuliani had disregarded his duty as a defendant to turn over information requested by election workers Ruby Freeman and her daughter Windra Ashimoss as part of their lawsuits. The decision shifts the case towards a trial in Washington that could result in Giuliani being ordered to pay significant compensations in addition to the tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees he's already been directed to pay. In December 2021, Freeman and Moss filed their complaint accusing Giuliani of defaming them by falsely stating that he had engaged in fraud while counting ballots at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Giuliani, one of former President Donald Trump's lawyers and confidants, had been an outspoken supporter of the false 2020 election was the result of rigged votes. In a statement on Wednesday, the women said they had endured a living nightmare and an unimaginable wave of hatred and threat because of Giuliani's comments. Nothing can restore all we lost, but today's ruling is yet another neutral finding that has confirmed what we have known all along, that there was never any truth to any of the accusations about us and that we did nothing wrong. They said, "We were smeared for purely political reasons and the people responsible can and should be held accountable." The ruling composites the legal jeopardy Giuliani faces at a time when he and Trump are among the 19 defendants charged in a state racketeering case connected to efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. It also creates the potential for a massive financial penalty as the case proceeds to a federal trial in Washington, where a jury will determine any damages Giuliani may be liable for. Moving ahead, the military said 6 members of Ukrainian armed forces have been killed in an accident involving 2 helicopters while they were on a mission in eastern Ukraine. The 6 Ukrainian servicemen were killed while carrying out missions in a Russian-held sector of the country, the eastern city of Bakhmut, the Ukrainian military said in a statement on Wednesday. No details were given as to what occurred in the deadly incident, which involved 2 of the Ukrainian military's widely used Mi-8 helicopters on Tuesday. According to a report, the deaths occurred near Kramatorsk, a large town west of Bakhmut in the Donetsk region, which has seen much fighting since the Russian invasion last year. The 2 helicopters were completely destroyed and the bodies of the 6 were found in the wreckage at the site where they had crashed, reports said. The cause of the double helicopter crash is being probed, but there was no mention of it being shot down by either the military or reports. The Ukrainian Air Force spokesperson identified as Yevhen Nikita said, according to report, that the men on board the 2 helicopters were officers and their identities were not being made public for security reasons. And more stories on weather. Hurricane Idalia lowered to tropical storm. On Wednesday morning, no less than 3 people have been killed as Hurricane Idalia slammed into the Florida coastline, sowing a path of destruction as it tore northward into Georgia and South Carolina. The Florida Highway Patrol described the 2 of the deaths as separate rain-related incidents. A 59-year-old man appears to have lost control of his truck during extremely rainy conditions in Gainesville, Florida, crashing into the ditch and then a line of trees. In one case, the second incident occurred in Pasco County. A 40-year-old man there was driving too fast for conditions and struck a tree, the Highway Patrol said. A 3rd person was killed in Valdosta, Georgia, as he attempted to dismantle a fallen tree, according to Lundy's County Sheriff Ashley Polk. The tree was blocking a roadway, and as the victim was cutting it, a second tree fell, killing the man and injuring another. Idalia made landfall in Florida as a powerful Category 3 storm after briefly strengthening to a Category 4, the second highest level in the 5-tier wind scale. The cyclone had intensified rapidly. In less than a day, it had gone from a Category 1 storm into a major hurricane, leading the 4 states in its path, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, to declare states of emergency. Experts believe Idalia was supercharged by the warm waters off of Florida's coast, where surface temperatures was as hot as 38 degrees Celsius, 101 degrees Fahrenheit in July. By Wednesday afternoon, after hours churning over land, Idalia was downgraded to a tropical storm, but experts warned that the storm system was no less deadly. While Idalia has lost the designation of a hurricane, it is no less risky for the people in the path of this system, Deputy Director Jamie Rome of the National Hurricane Center said, according to a report. In African scenes, at least 52 dead in Johannesburg building fire. Reports from South Africa and an emergency worker said at least 52 people have been killed and more than 40 treated for wounds following a fire at a multi-story building in downtown Johannesburg. Johannesburg Emergency Management Services spokesperson Robert Mulaudzi said the blaze on Thursday morning had gutted a building located in the city's central business district, and the death toll was continuing to rise, with 52 bodies now recovered from the site. Latest update, 52 bodies recovered and 43 injured still continuing with search and recovery, Mulaudzi said in a post. The injured are receiving treatment at various healthcare facilities, he added. The cause of the fire is not yet known, according to South Africa reports. Mutinous Gabon soldiers declared new leader. Mutinous soldiers in Gabon proclaimed their Republican Guard chief as the country's leader on Wednesday after placing the president, Ali Bongo Ondimba, who was declared winner of Saturday's election, under house arrest. In an announcement, the coup leaders said that General Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema had been unanimously designated president of a transitional committee to lead the country. Oligui is a cousin of Bongo. Bongo called on people to make noise to support him in a video from detention in his residence, but the crowds who took to the streets of the capital instead celebrated the coup against the dynasty accused of getting rich on the country's resource wealth, while many of its citizens struggle. Thank you, Army. Finally, we've been waiting a long time for this moment, said Yolande, standing in front of Republican Guard members who had helped stage the takeover. Coup leaders extended a nighttime curfew imposed after the August 26th election. Gabonese will not be permitted to move freely from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The previous night, curfew ran from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. The president of the transition insists on the need to maintain calm and serenity in our beneficial country. At the dawn of a new era, we will guarantee the peace, stability, and dignity of our beloved Gabon, Lieutenant Colonel Ulrich Monfobi said on Wednesday, according to reports. Just in a moment, more stories coming your way. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. More news now from Nigeria says Tinubu world leaders reject Gabon junta. Wednesday's coup in Central Africa country, Gabon, drew rage from world leaders and international organizations. They asked the junta to return their barracks and restore democratic order in the thinly populated oil-rich country. The coup, the sixth on the African continent in 6 years, came after the one in Niger Republic, Nigeria's northern neighbor. The economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, is still grappling to gather soldiers to respect constitutional authority and quit power. Mutinous soldiers in Libreville announced the takeover of political power. They put President Ali Bongo Ondimba under house arrest hours after being declared winner in an election held on Saturday that will have extended his family's 55-year reign. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu started rallying world leaders after the news of the coup filtered in. He spoke with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and some ECOWAS leaders in his capacity as the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government. During Galele, his spokesman said the president is ready to see to the restoration of order in Gabon. The coup unsettled the United Nations, UN, African Union, AU, European Union, EU, United States, US, and others. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the takeover. His spokesman, Stefan Dujarric, said Guterres firmly condemns the ongoing coup attempt as a means to resolve the post-electoral crisis and reaffirms his strong opposition to military coups. The head of state of AE Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat, condemned the coup and called on security forces to peacefully return to democratic constitutional order. EU's top diplomat Josep Borrell said the situation in Gabon will be discussed by the bloc's ministers this week. Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland called the coup an illegal takeover of power. Bongo has served 2 terms since coming to power in 2009 after the death of his father, who ruled the country for 41 years. France, Gabonese colonial master, condemned the military coup, saying it was closely monitoring developments in the country. It reaffirmed its wish that the outcome of the election, once known, be respected. French President Emmanuel Macron on Monday denounced what he called an epidemic of coups in French-speaking African countries from Mali and Burkina Faso to Guinea and Niger. Paris maintains a military presence in many of its former colonial territories, including Gabon, where it has 370 soldiers permanently deployed, some in the capital Libreville, according to the French Ministry of Armed Forces. The U.S. described the development as deeply concerning. We are going to watch this closely, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to support the idea of democratic ideals that are expressed by the African people, said White House National Security spokesman John Kirby. China called on relevant parties in Gabon to restore order as soon as possible. It also urged them to ensure the personal safety of President Bongo, maintain national peace, stability, and overall development, according to Wang Wenbin, a spokesperson for China's foreign ministry. In a reaction from Moscow, Russia said it received with concern reports of the sharp deterioration in the internal situation in Gabon. We continue to closely monitor the developments of the situation and hope for its speedy stabilization, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said. Spain's acting defense minister Margarita Robles said at a European Union defense ministers meeting in Toledo that Spain was monitoring events in Africa's Sahel region with great concern. Spain has about 140 troops stationed to the northeast of Mali's capital, Bamako, as part of EU's training mission there. And finally on the news, Wike says nobody can expel me from PDP. Wisdom Wike, immediate former Rivers State Governor and Minister of the Federal Capital Territory FCT Abuja, has asserted that he remains a member of the People's Democratic Party PDP despite serving in an All Progressives Congress APC administration. He made the declaration in an interview that aired on Wednesday. According to a report, asked whether he is still a member of the opposition party, he said, and I quote, "This is also one thing I've found out in Nigeria. Governance is not about party. Party is a vehicle that conveys you. I'm a PDP member up till now, unrepentable." He recalled that Olusegun Obasanjo and Atiku Abubakar administration appointed the late Chief Bola Ige not just a minister but the Attorney General of the Federation, making him the most senior cabinet member despite being in the opposition. Because Obasanjo and Atiku believe that he can contribute in this area, he said. Wike said he never hid his aim as a PDP member when he said he will fight for equity, fairness and justice in the last election. Asked whether he felt at home in the APC, Wike insisted that he is not a ruling party member but felt comfortable working with the President Tinubu. He said that beyond giving him courage, Tinubu is a man who means well for this country, looking for people who will support him and get Nigeria to achieve the renewed hope he has given to the country. The minister added, and I quote, "I'm not here to work for a party. I'm here to support the president who has confidence in me to help him deliver renewed hope, and I owe nobody any apology at all. I was in PDP. I worked for Ahmed Tinubu to become the president of Nigeria." Continuing, he said he does not regret working for the APC to win Rivers State, thus becoming the only state in the south that won by the ruling party in the presidential election. A recap of major stories says Biden approves military aid to Taiwan. North Korea conducts a strategic nuclear strike drill. Malaysia rejects a new China map. Giuliani liable for defaming election workers. And Ukraine says 6 personnel killed in helicopter crash. That's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Tureki. Have a nice day.